Hola, buenas tardes amigos y bienvenido a Juego 19 en vivo para el Torneo Abierto de México. Make sure you like and subscribe to In Between Media to get all the notifications for every show on this platform. You love it. We all love it. The 19th hole, we got Mexico Open. Vámonos. Oh, baby. Oh, see, I hit the wrong button already. Let's go. En vivo. Imagine the least awkward part of that being the Spanish part of the intro.
You nailed it, man. I'm glad that it was you doing the Spanish and not me.
Yeah, I was going to have you do the Telemundo voice and see how you did.
Telemundo.
Univision, Sábado Gigante, vamos. But yeah, we are covering the Mexico Open at Vidanta Vallarta down there in Cabo, Puerto Vallarta. It's gonna be tropical, low 80s, light breeze off the Gulf. Connor, this tournament is an opportunity. This is where we really get to dive into some of the guys that we know that maybe aren't household names yet, but should be in the next year or two, maybe even longer. Some of these guys are late bloomers, like one of our favorites, Jake Knapp. We're going to talk a lot about him, 29-year-old rookie who's really hit his stride. But this is a tournament where just because you might not have heard the name yet doesn't mean he wasn't primed to win this event. It's only the third year at this golf course, Vidanta Vallarta. Connor, you're going to cover that. How are you doing? Are you feeling good?
I'm feeling good. I'm in a less than tropical setting. I was supposed to be down in Hilton Head and experience.
South Carolina is a lot warmer than South Dakota.
I was supposed to be golfing the last few days. I am. I'm a little bummed, but the wonderful folks at United didn't think that it was quite our time to get there. So we had to postpone it for a couple of weeks. So we'll
imagine booking anything with United.
I've never experienced anything like it. We got bumped, I think 6 or 7 times on Saturday. And then they told us we could fly standby with 150 of our closest friends on Sunday. And I was like, nah, we'll get the refund. Thanks. Though.
That sounds like you're asking for RSV in that situation. Well, yeah, this is a tournament where it's kind of sandwiched between the West Coast swing and the Florida swing. Most of the top golfers in the world are honing their craft on the practice greens at Jupiter, Florida, getting ready for the Players and the Arnold Palmer and the Honda next week, which isn't the Honda anymore. It's the Cognizant Classic. But this week it's an opportunity for us to kind of flex our muscles with the lesser known golfers that are in this field. It's a full field event. There's a 36-hole cut. It's a real golf course designed by a real person. And there's going to be a winner, and hopefully we're going to get a winner that we pick. Unlike last week where we had the entire top of the leaderboard smothered, except for the guy who goes out and shoots a course record and comes inbound on the toughest back nine in golf in 30. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You throw your hands up, you tip your cap to Hideki Matsuyama for an historic round of golf, really. 62 at that golf course is ridiculous, and 30 on that back nine in particular is unheard of. So yeah, you can't do anything about that. We had Luke List, we had Xander Schauffele, we had all these guys, Cantlay. We had the whole thing surrounded, but konnichiwa. That was it. We were done.
Konnichiwa. Yeah, you got to pour one out for old Xander and Cantlay, though. Good Lord, way to just give it back.
With the 2-stroke lead at the turn, and then he had 5 consecutive threes to round out his front nine, and then started his back nine with 3 consecutive fives, which pretty much doomed him.
you broke the golden rule. You texted me hold on list before he made the turn. I was
Yeah,
like,
Braveheart.
go. Now it's done. Now it's done.
And no sooner did I send that text, but it was, I believe, 2 minutes later, he ended up short right in the bunker on 10. And that's the only place on 10 where you can't get a par. And that's a birdie hole where the hole is. All you do is miss left, as far left as you want. You can be short, you can be long, just be left. And he was short right, and that's dead.
I think in a lot of ways, though, that what was kind of nice about List is I think it just reaffirms kind of what we collectively have been saying for a little while now. Like he's really got it. I mean, I think we're going to keep continuing to see him up there in the top. And
Paintbrush putting stroke.
yeah, dude, I think that made all the world a difference for him. Ball striking was pretty much on point. I think he got a little bit of pressure on him on Sunday, which is what happened. But yeah, I think Luke List will continue to carry some longer odds, to be honest. And so we might as well keep going after him when we get the chance, I think.
And as I said very distinctly after those 3 straight fives, when Hideki's out there 3 holes ahead of everybody else, because he started the final round 6 shots back, and he goes out there and shoots the round of his life, and there's nothing you can do about it because all these other golfers, like Cantlay was there, Schauffele was there, our guy Willie Z was there for a while, and it came down to them trying to play aggressive on a 9-hole stretch that if you're not precise with your aggression, you can't make pars, let alone birdies to stick with the guy. That's what was so amazing about that back 9 for Hideki, is that he put so much pressure on the rest of the field to match him when that was never a possibility. That was never something you could go out there and strive to do, is shoot 30 on that 9.
Hideki, though, I think, and a lot of times once he gets it going, man, he's just kind of dialed. I mean, it's not like that. To be honest, it's surprising that somebody pulled that off. But really, it's not that surprising with Hideki. Like Hideki, once he gets in a rhythm, is pretty robotic. So we saw him kind of coming early in the day, and it just kept rolling. I mean,
his approach shots on 15 and 16, ridiculous. 8 inches from 189 and then 6 inches from 186. That's not even fair because those whole locations, those pin placements, weren't even accessible to everybody else in the field. They were bailing out left and right or long. They weren't even challenging the front bunkers on either of those holes. And he goes out there and flies it just over the bunkers and rolls it up cozy for a tap in on both holes. They look like instant replays of one another. My God, like what a way to lose 110-1 on Luke List when I thought we had it in the bag. I thought Luke was just going to put it away with a nice little string. He couldn't even put birdies on the board on the par 5s, which is essential to making a win out of that tournament. It broke my heart.
Well, and we can't even sit here and try and pretend that we were even on Hideki. I mean, I think I had 0 shares of Hideki in DFS, and I certainly didn't bet him. So,
and I was pretty safely comfortable with that fact entering Sunday when he was 6 shots behind the lead. What are you going to do?
Yep. I was just going to say, I agree. Like barring what he did, I mean, he really wasn't even there. So it is what it is. I saw Royal's question if Riv is the LA Olympics site, and it is in 2028. It will be at Riviera.
Yep, that's going to be incredible entertainment. What are you drinking, Connor? Are you just getting liquored up like me, where you're just sad boy, all in your feels after losing all those bets last week to a guy that just put together a historic round?
Well, I like I said, I spent 9 hours in the airport on Saturday and drank my weight in Coors Light. So I've been recovering the last 2 days. So I figured what a better way to get back into it than just pounding.
He installed a catheter for all the pissing you were.
Just drinking some gin neat tonight. Hey, because there's 2 things I don't do, Bo, and it's tequila and Tony fucking Finau. So,
talk about appropriate for the Mexico Open. Mexico's official spirit is tequila. And so I'm drinking a tequila cocktail that I just made up I made it up just on the fly today. So I did tequila blanca, which is your standard non-aged tequila, nice and clear, still got good flavor. And then I threw in some orange bitters from Angostura. and some agave nectar to sweeten it up. And then I shook it up, put it over an ice cube, and I put a splash of salted caramel Kahlua, another product of Mexico, on top. And of course, I garnished it with your favorite cherries, maraschino style, just to give it a little extra steady sick kick there. Yeah, Wendy, we thought it was noteworthy that you were on time, if not early. I'm just so shocked. I was stunned. I was speechless. So congratulations. If you do it again next week, that's called a winning streak, and it has happened before.
Which is something we are not on, but we'll see what we can do to get right on that. Yeah, I think is it last year on the show that we made margaritas on air, or was it 2 years ago?
I don't remember, but
go back and check it out.
Wendy's getting spicy in the comments already, so I will withhold the information that you're asking for on the air. Just know that I don't have any restrictions in that department. So yes, I'm not going to justify that.
If we pay extra, will you put restrictions on that department? I mean, just curious.
If I win on my mini long shot bets I'm going to be throwing out there today, then yes, I'll put the regulator on the tequila shedding clothing items, whatever you want to say. Connor, let's go in and talk about this golf course. It's a pretty interesting course, honestly. There's a lot of easy holes, but there's a few that are pretty tough when you go across the PGA Tour. Let's hit the drop, caddy notes, and followed by Connor in Spanish, hopefully. All right, Connor, tell us about Vidanta Vallarta Golf Club down there in Mexico.
Mexico. Yeah, Mexico Open at Vidanta. Vidanta Vallarta, it's a par 71, 7,456 yards. Paspalum fairways, Paspalum greens. Definitely been proven that you can get away with doing a little bit of bomb and gouge here. The one thing that is interesting about the Bombers is that not only do you need some distance off the tee, but you also need some distance on approach. Going to have a lot of approach shots coming in from that 175 to 200 and some in excess of 225. So definitely you're wanting some longer hitters here. The interesting thing about the fairways on this course too is though they are wider and easier to hit because of the length some of these guys are playing with, you will have a lot of approach shots coming in from 100, 125, but it'll be either left of the fairway, right of the fairway. Not that that's a huge deal. Paspalum is pretty easy to play off of. You're probably just going to see more spin, probably a lot less likelihood of hitting jumpers, etc.
So they're Velcro-y, like your fairway lies are really perfect. The greens roll true. Your approach is spin control is important from those distances. That's something interesting I noticed last year when Tony Finau won by three or four shots over John Rahm, was that his approach shots from long iron distances would even check up right away, even with a 3, 4, 5 iron. And that was pretty surprising. So they do have a lot of grip to them, and they don't necessarily putt slow. They just have really good grab when you hit an approach shot into them.
Yeah, my memory serves. They putt pretty true, and they putt nowhere near the speed that we saw last week. Probably not even the speed that we saw the previous 2 weeks. They're definitely going to be slower than what we've seen so far. Yeah. But the weather is going to be pretty mild, light wind. So hopefully this place doesn't actually dry out at all. We don't get the coastal winds. We don't get incredibly high temperatures. I think it's going to be a pretty receptive golf course. I don't believe there to be a ton of trouble here, really. The biggest trouble you're going to run into, honestly, is going to be the greenside bunkers. So you will need some guys that have some around the green game, some scrambling skills to get up and down. So Outside of that, though, I would project the score to be somewhere between 22 to 25 under. Cuts probably about 2 under to 3 under. Tony Finau won last year at 24 under. John Rahm the year before that at 17. And then, that's about the gist of the old course. Bo, if you've got anything you think you can add that makes it even more beautiful than what it probably
Yeah, I would just add that on top of a lot of birdie opportunities here, 11 of the holes have that exact approach distance between 175 and 200. So that's very noteworthy. It comes into play a lot more than your traditional courses that'll have different varying distances on approach. And 4 of these holes are in the top 50 most difficult holes on the PGA Tour. I don't remember which ones they are, but there are 4 very difficult holes here, and the rest are gettable birdie holes that you have to take advantage of.
I think it's 6, 7, 14, 18.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's what I read. I didn't remember off the top of my head, other than there are a handful of very difficult scoring holes, and the rest of the time you're not avoiding bogeys like you are on those holes, but you're trying to score birdies in bunches. Birdies are better gained is huge here, and it does help to have distance here, but it also helps to have a hot short game, like you said. Part of scoring here and avoiding bad scores here is a hot putter added in with some chipping ability, because you're not going to hit every green, you're not going to hit every fairway. It does reward golfers who hit it long off the tee and then can put themselves in position for easy scoring chances. And that's why this isn't the easiest golf course. It's in that top 10 or 15 easiest ones, but it's not the easiest. So you're going to see some of these guys struggle where you probably wouldn't expect it. And that's kind of my parlay into Tony Finau here is we're in pretty much unanimous agreement that Tony Finau hasn't been anywhere near his true top peak form since last year's Mexico Open. He had one good week at the Rocket Mortgage last year. Those are his 2 main events where we know Tony Finau is going to show up. But this year it just feels different. His form has been lackluster. And yeah, that still means he's a top 20 golfer in the world, but it's not like Tony Finau's a shoe-in here despite his very short odds.
I mean, based on his current form, not to jump the gun before we hit the drop, but yeah, no, Tony Finau, like I said in the intro, there's a couple things I don't do, and Tony Finau is the other one. So
I'm only doing one of them this week.
No, his form's not been great, and to be honest, I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a get right spot for him, because the part that he needs to really put all together is going to be some of the off the tee that he's been lacking. Like the last I think it's the last 24 rounds, he's been just barely flat, and the putter hasn't been there either. So we can dive into why you got to be insane to pay $650 for Tony Finau, but.
All right, well, let's get into it. Let's twirl some clubs. Let's bet on golf. We had most of the top of the leaderboard. If you had placement bets last week, you won just like I did. That's why I do placement bets, because if you're only picking a guy to win and none of those guys win, you get skunked, and that's it. So let's do more of the same this week, but with some names that you might not have heard of yet. Let's go. Chad, Tanner, and Kyle are doing great in that video. They look like they might be at Vidanta Vallarta in the off season.
I also think that they were probably playing pickleball, and somebody was like, "Hey, I want to go check out this golf thing," and they just sort of wandered onto the course. That's kind of what it looks like.
Do they have seltzers? Yeah, seltzers.
It's probably more ranch water. I don't.
No, they can't handle the tequila ranch water. Tony Finau plus 650 at my last check at DraftKings Sportsbook. If you're betting that number on a guy playing as ice cold as Tony Finau, even as the defending champion of this event in a field that doesn't have very many household names, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I don't want Tony Finau less than 10-1 anywhere, especially with how shitty he's playing. What is the point of doing that?
I'm just curious where you would be betting him even at 10-1. I mean,
right. And that's the thing is he would be getting a lot of steam at 10-1, but the fact that he's the outright favorite by such a margin here, it makes no sense at all. And it's just inviting a bunch of suckers that say, oh, who's the defending champion? Oh, it's also the only guy I've heard of in this field. And so the casuals are soaking it up in Mexico, but anybody with any knowledge of this event, at least I just checked it, and he has slipped to plus 850, which is still terrible, but less terrible than before. That's not good. If any Tony Finau bet exists, I would say Tony Finau is a pretty safe bet at plus 225 to make top 5 here. Despite him coming in at 71st in my model, I don't think he's bad enough to completely bomb here. I just don't think he wins. Top 10's plus 115. You're getting plus money on all these placements. You're off him completely. I get that. But if you're like, hey, I believe in Tony Finau, he's a really stand-up guy, a big family guy. Everybody loves him. Yeah, we love him as a person. But the dude needs to show us something. He's playing terrible right now.
Yeah, I think the thing that I looked at too that's just really concerning is he's lost a minimum of 3 strokes per round. Or I'm sorry, 3 strokes per tournament on the putting surface, going all the way back to August. And last week he lost almost 4 strokes putting. And now, granted, those are more difficult greens, right? But still, the guy can't.
Strokes gained is relative to the field he's in. He putted much more poorly than anybody else at those events.
Exactly. It's not like
those are sticky stats.
Yeah, so I don't know. The putting woes and then just the eye test with him, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a top 10 I could get in on, but to be honest with you, I don't even see top 5.
You're not spending your money there though. That's like if you're like, oh, Tony Finau's all right, then do the top 10, maybe the top 5 if you're feeling really frisky, but betting him at plus 850 overall with all these other talented guys below him on the betting slip that we feel much more confidently in. That's where I'd start is our guy, 22-year-old Dane Nicolai Højgaard, 16-1. He opened at 18. He's down to 14-1. I'm still betting Nicolai as the favorite. His odds are getting shorter by the day, so make sure you get him while you can at that number. Nicolai he's extraordinary. He's a great bomber off the tee, great distance, and he has the short game that Tony Finau does not have. That's what I love about Nicolai. Nicolai's been really hot on approach, but his short game is a strength. I love that matching up here at this golf course, especially with the form he's been playing with early this season.
To that point, normally he's got spikes of brilliance on the putting surface. He really hasn't done it the last 3 tournaments. Again, those have been much more difficult situations that he's been in. You go back to like some of the swing, like wraparound season, 6.7 strokes gained putting at Wyndham, 5 strokes gained putting at Shriners. Mm-hmm. Back last season, even at the PGA Championship, he gained almost 4 strokes on the putting surface. So he really can putt. And then you couple that with the fact that his tee to green game has been pretty nails and mm-hmm. 315 yards on your average drive. He really is kind of what we're looking at. So,
and he's getting better every week. It seems like even when he wasn't putting well the last few weeks, he looks good out there. He looks like he's figuring stuff out. Being 22 years old got to be crazy on the PGA Tour. We're talking about him and Akshay Bhatia. We're going to talk a little bit about our guy Rio from Japan in this tournament. It's just loaded with young talent on the PGA Tour, and that's another thing that Tony Finau has to contend with. Not only is he playing more poorly than he was last year when he won this tournament going away, the field is much stronger with young talent on the PGA Tour than it was last year. This is going to be an awakening for some of these guys who are not really getting the respect from the sports books that I expected. And that's an edge for us. We need all the edges we can get this year with all the long shot winners and out of nowhere winners like Hideki.
Well said, sir. There's a lot of young talent that we really like here, so we can move away from the guy we
Yeah.
obviously won't play and the guy that we're all over. So,
Yeah.
who's your
All
next?
right. There's three guys at 25 to 1 that I am absolutely in love with. I like one of them more than the other two, but Thomas Dietrich, the Belgian, Taylor Pendrith, the Canadian, shout out to our Looney fans, and Steven Jaeger, the German, all at 25 to 1, all popping in the models. I love Pendrith. I couldn't get Pendrith out of the number one spot in my model, no matter what I did to weight it differently. Taylor Pendrith was number one by far. It wasn't close. Everything we're looking for from a golfer in this tournament says Taylor Pendrith is our guy. So if you trust your stats model, if you trust my stat model, and sounds like Connor's stat model, then you should probably put a little bit of coin behind our loony friend Taylor Pendrith.
Or a lot of bit of coin. Like he
A
sets
lot of
up
bit of coin.
so damn
Perfect.
here.
And he's playing really well this year. Like he
Yeah,
hasn't won yet, but he's knocking on that door.
and he's sneaky long. He's about
Mhm.
average 310 off the tee. He's got a pretty high fairway and regulation rate, just bordering on that 60%. He also likes to knock the ball really stinking close. He hits about 70% of greens, and he's got one
Especially
of,
from that bucket that we're looking at.
and on top of that, he's got one of the best opportunities gain metric, which is how close he's
Mhm.
knocking it to the ball to the hole. So
Yep.
the other thing we kind of like about Taylor Pendrith is he has like absolute fire weeks with his putter. So
Mhm.
if we get the complete Taylor Pendrith here, he wins this thing wire to wire going away.
We're cleaning up. We're cleaning up.
Love.
So pull up Pendrith here. Number 7 in this field in birdies or better. Number 1 in bogey avoidance, which is going to be important. Number 4 in strokes gained par 4. Number 4 in strokes gained par 5. He's no worse than 43rd in any metric, and that's in putting. Where if you go in farther out, he's better than 43rd in this field in putting. I just went to last 24 rounds to get the hot iron, hot off the press stats. This guy is across the board checking all the boxes. When your worst stat is 43rd in a field of 150 guys, that's green flag racing.
Yeah, the thing that is interesting with him too is there's only one guy that weighed out as a better value in the new modeling tool I'm using in terms of betting odds to placement and DFS points scored to cost. And we'll get into him here very, very shortly. But Taylor Pendrith has incredibly high win equity here based on all the analytics blended together to project like the betting odds value. So I would definitely stake my claim in some Taylor Pendrith as soon as possible.
So, speaking of odds, what are the odds that our guy, the Willow Branch, finds the Gulf of Mexico in this tournament?
My number one weight to value is Eric Van Rooyen this week. So
yeah, and he rated highly for me. I'm skipping him as well. I don't think he has.
I'm betting him.
Man, I won't bet him. He's my Tony Finau. I can't stand watching Eric Van Rooyen play because every time he pops up in the stats, he does absolutely nothing with it. And so that's for me is I believe my stats unless it's Eric Van Rooyen because he is a liar. He is the Dak Prescott of the PGA Tour.
Can we just for argument's sake though talk about how good he has been? He rates out last 24
number four in my model, so I have to see what this is all about. Plenty of strengths to be had here.
So second in shots gained on approach, 8th off the tee in the last 24. His putting is not a major thing really, but past Palom is his best surface. He tends to be flat or gain just under 1 stroke. And so when you start looking at that, not to mention how heavy we were on, how heavy I was on him at Waste Management, which I think is a lot harder, of course, but really can benefit from some of the same skill set. I think he's still the same golfer in the same form, 35 to 1 in this field. It just seems like that's a pretty good value for the quality of this field. Like Eric Van Rooyen is a real golfer who really can put a complete game together for 4 days. So
I couldn't disagree more. I just don't think he has the pedigree to be at that number, especially when that next tier of guys at 40 and 45 are absolutely loaded. are two guys that we both agree with. Jake Knapp, Ryo Hisatsune. Oh my God. Like Jake Knapp might be the best top 5 lock at crazy odds, plus 850 for top 5 Jake Knapp. I'm locking that in a heartbeat. He's plus 4,000 to win. I'll take all that. I'm going triple placement bet on Jake Knapp, 40 to 1 for outright, 8.5 to 1 top 5, and 4 to 1 top 10. I'm putting all my money behind this guy because he bombs it. His approach game's on fire right now, and his short game's immaculate. I love this guy. He's the 29-year-old rookie. He is blazing hot. One of the easiest qualifiers for the PGA Tour in history from the Korn Ferry Tour. And already the odds-on favorite to win PGA Tour Rookie of the Year this year, tied for 3rd at the Farmers, tied for 23rd at the Waste Management. He's got game, and we're talking 186 average ball speed. Is that insanity or what?
No, I love Jake Knapp, and I love it. I love the top 5 as almost a sure thing too. So
8.5 to 1 for a top 5.
I'm in lockstep with you.
Give me my damn money. Give me my damn money already.
Love this kid. If there's
the same odds as it is for Tony Finau to win here. How funny is that? You want 8.5 to 1 for Tony Finau outright or Jake Knapp top 5?
And I think he's got more of a chance to win than Tony Finau does. That's the same thing. So yeah, if you don't know Jake Knapp or you haven't been listening to us week on week, like Jake Knapp is a very big favorite of ours for this year, and I'm with Bo. He's pretty much going to be a lock, I think, for Rookie of the Year.
He's
once
on
he gets
the thumbnail
here, like he's an incredible player waiting to happen. So, you know, there's some young guys that we talk about week on week, Nikolai Højgaard and Ludwig Elberg. We talk about week on week. This guy has the potential to be right in that conversation every single week.
He's got great hair too.
He does. Yeah. It's like I said earlier, he looks like he shouldn't be within 100 yards of a school, but that's okay.
Right. That's just because he's got the dirt stash going. But speaking of good hair and young future champions, Ryo Hisatsune from Japan, 45 to 1 to win. I think I'll throw a 4 to 1 placement bet for a top 10 on him, but he's all or nothing. He's incredibly talented. He's only 21. He's even younger than Højgaard. We're talking about a guy with all sorts of absurd upside and definite lock in the player pool for the DFS side. But wouldn't it feel great to have a 21-year-old 45 to 1 champion here? Hi, Didi. Ryo Hisatsune, how do you feel about him?
Love Ryo. And as a matter of fact, when you break it down to just the last 12 rounds, there's really nobody hotter than Ryo in this field.
He's playing great.
We don't need to belabor it. If you watch us or you want to go read some articles, there's a million reasons between the two of us and some of our previous shows and articles to bet Ryo. But Ryo's got a massive following. He's going to make a ton of noise this year. He's been playing great. Every stat lines up here. I think the only thing that maybe is a little bit of a hiccup for him that's got to come together is that putter. I think outside of that, everything else has been firing at an elite level lately. So
yeah,
I am here for the Ryo bets.
All right, there's 3 guys at 50 to 1 that I like. There's quite a few in that group, actually, that do okay in my stat model, but 3 guys in particular, all 3 of them have great course history here, despite not having great course history anywhere else. Cam Champ, shout out NorCal. Brandon Wu, both years that this event's been at Vidanta Vallarta, has finished in the top 5. And Alejandro Tosti, the guy from Argentina, bomber extraordinaire, and very popular choice. If you watch other shows that bet on golf, Alejandro Tosti at 50 to 1 or 55 to 1 now. Very, very popular choice. Weigh in on this group because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in that tier. And you can go even farther down if you go to 55 to 1 with Justin Suh, Mackenzie Hughes, Jonathan Vegas. This is a loaded group of guys. Are there any leans that you have, Connor?
I like some of the guys you just mentioned. The other one I'd throw in, just because he rated out as being a good value based on the weights that we put into the modeling, is Doug Gim, who definitely is not somebody that I line up to play frequently. But those longer proximity ranges that we're looking at, he actually rates out surprisingly well. As a matter of fact, on approach, he's good in general, but his 3 best approach buckets happen to be the 3 that we're looking at this week. So I really kind of like that. He's a pretty accurate guy off the tee. I wouldn't lump him into the bomber category.
No.
But like I said, trying a few different things this week to try and find some edges. And as far as odds are concerned, he rated out as the 4th best value in the odds model that I ran. So he's definitely worth a look at 50-1.
Yeah, good drives gained, 11th in this field, 5th in bogey avoidance, and number 1 in strokes gained par 5. If you look at the other stats, not so much, but it's worth a flyer. I'm a Gim fan in DFS, but I'm not betting him, especially in this group of guys that I think are all way better than him. But yeah, it's okay. I think I'll reserve him for the player pool on the DFS side. I can't bring myself to love Doug Gim in a bet. It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially when I can do better golfers farther down the list. My guy at 55-1, Michael Kim, is better to me than Doug Gim. Michael Kim checks all the boxes for me this week. No,
not a fan. Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Your new model, it might be a little rusty, or it's a little new, because he rated out very highly in mine. Michael Kim, number 3 in my model.
Number 63 in the field off the tee, and number 47 in the field in putting over the last 24 rounds. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's fire right this second.
Well, he's 4th in our proximity bucket. He's 11th in our strokes gained par 5, 12th in strokes gained par 3, 2nd in birdies or better gained, which is the number 1 heaviest weighted stat in my entire model. Birdie making machine, who his nails on approach in our bucket. That's why Michael Kim is very high on my list. And at 55-1, I'm going to take a shot on him. He's a Twitter darling too.
Yeah, no, I like Michael Kim as the golfer. I just don't like him here. He's losing strokes off the tee. You and I are adamant that he's got to gain strokes off the tee. He hasn't.
I smell a side bet.
He hasn't done that. In
Doug Gim versus Michael Kim. Are we going to do it?
I'm in. Yeah, Doug Gim will definitely beat Michael Kim this week.
I don't think there's any chance.
I will see you on Sunday.
Seth is on Gim. You might want to change your mind.
Yeah, well, Seth's probably on Callum Tarrant too. Don't tell him he's in the field.
Oh, no.
That's Scotty's roommate we're talking about.
No way. All right. Anybody else? Yeah, we go between 60 and 100-1. This group is a little bit less decorated than the previous group. Guys that pop for me: Norman, Gotterup, Charlie Hoffman, of all people, is just red hot right now. And then Joseph Bramlett and Garrick Higo. Garrick Higo has got a lot of steam. He started at 120-1. He's already down to 90-1. I better keep my mouth shut if I want to keep playing him.
I think this is one of those spots where everybody wants to jump on Higo, and I'm not saying that I can really make a whole lot of argument not to. The only thing I will say is in that range, Sami Välimäki from Finland.
Yeah, he's hot.
Is somebody who's incredibly hot. He just won the Qatar Masters. He's got a 2nd, a 4th, a 6th. Also that win I mentioned. He's only missed 2 cuts in his last 22 starts on the DP World Tour. Pretty damn good on approach. So he keeps it pretty much flat gained off the tee, but his approach game is pretty stellar. He can get a hot putter. He genuinely is a class above these guys down in this bucket. Like, this is a guy
he is, especially with how he's playing right now.
World Tour, 90-1. So
that's a great value. And people don't look at Sami Välimäki and want to play that name. But if you're playing a guy named Garrick Higo because he's a bomber who can putt and has a great short game, you have to look at the approach distance bucket as a very important cog in this stat model. And where Higo makes up, he rises quickly because of his driving distance and off the tee game, as well as a great putting stroke. The approach game is very important, and Välimäki's killing Higo in the approach game. That's going to be kind of I think they're both going to be fine here. They're both in my player pool for DFS, but if I'm betting value wise, I like both of them. I'm going to put my money on Sammy, but Higo DFS is going to be money because that dude makes birdies in his sleep. He can't avoid big numbers very well. That's the other thing that could kill him. Sammy's been avoiding bogeys all the way through. That's why he won last week.
Yeah, well, and Sammy gained almost 6 strokes on approach at Waste Management.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I'm looking at like finished flag. What the hell's going on here? I haven't seen a finished flag on the top of the leaderboard in forever.
Well, so yeah, he lost strokes off the tee, which is abnormal for him. He usually gains 1.5 to 2 strokes off the tee. His approach is usually flat. So if that approach stays fire, I think we got a 90-1 hit coming up.
Oh baby. All right, let's go down. Anybody down there at 100-1? I have 3 guys, actually 2 guys, because I already said Higo, and he's no longer at 100-1. Ben Coles at 130 and Eric Barnes at 180. I know you've talked about both of these guys. I think that they're way disrespected in this field. Can you tell me about both of those guys?
I like both those guys, and then I have one that's pretty obscure, but I'll just throw that at the end. As far as Ben Coles goes, we just looked at him just kind of being an overall like good form up until the Waste Management. He kind of hosed us on that. I think that he's one of those guys that we talk a lot about needing them to put together all aspects of their game for 3 or 4 rounds. He genuinely falls into that. When he's on fire with the approach, he's sticking it very close. He's got a very stout putter at times. I think the other thing too with him is that the driver is accurate. It's not as long as some of these bombers we're talking about. So I think there's some opportunity with those, especially with those longer approach buckets that were similar to some of the approach buckets we looked at last week as well, where he can still outshine some of these guys. So he's a long shot for a reason. But I think if I had to pick one of the two, it's probably Coles.
So you want to hear something great?
I do like Eric Barnes.
Barnes and Coles have both slipped to 200-1 on DraftKings. I'm firing up $5 bets on both of them because if you win $1,000 on, if you can win $1,000 off $5, you do it. I think.
Oh, yeah, of course you would. You could spend $10 or $15 on the 200-1 shots that we're about to tell you about. Between those two and the one I have, and maybe you get lucky and walk away with that kind of coin. Why not?
Can I guess yours?
You can guess mine.
Is it? I think it's either Rico Hoey or Jorge Campillo.
It's neither of them.
Oh man, hit me.
It is Trace Crow, Auburn alumni.
Damn. All right, you're gonna have to explain yourself because I don't know who the hell or what the hell a Trace Crow is.
So another guy that rips the cover off the ball. Very, very good on approach and key proximity ranges. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about him. Likes to knock the ball very close, and on top of being a bomber, this dude has a incredibly consistent putter. His last start at the Farmers, he gained 3.5 strokes. At Wells Fargo before that, 2.25. Honda, he gained 2. So he doesn't have a whole lot of starts yet on the PGA Tour, but he's been playing on the Corn Ferry, doing quite well over there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say bomber with great putting. If I'm going to throw $5 at something that I've done dumber shit with, Trace Crow, cool name too, easy to root for.
Yeah, birdie maker. Great short game altogether, not just putting. Kind of middle of the pack scoring wise on par 4s and 5s, but yeah, that's a deep sleeper for sure. All right, what do you say we do some DFSing on the DraftKings? Are you ready? Try not to slam trunks. I forget what happened last week. It was weird. I don't think I've won in any recent memory, and not only did I win, I won by like 120. It was nice. You were slamming your trunk. I went 6 for 6 and just completely blew you out of the water. It felt good. I needed to take that little victory lap because as soon as I hit this drop, I'm going to jinx myself just like I did on the back nine at Riviera.
The club as well. This would be a wrestling plan.
So, Connor, I already have 77 entries upcoming for DraftKings because I'm so excited to use all these edges, The ownership percentages are all out of whack, and they're all placed on guys that I don't want anything to do with. All of my guys are leveraged, and I didn't even think they were going to be. What is going on, Connor? Are we just going to take all the money this week from DraftKings? Because it's shaping up to be that kind of week for us.
Yeah, I think I've expanded my player pool quite a bit. I know you've talked a lot about having more of a buckshot approach. I think the other thing that's really interesting or unique this week on DraftKings is the pricing. Having Tony Finau up there at that 12,000 range, but then having the dead min $1,000 cheaper this week at 5K.
Yep.
With a lot of these long shots that we've talked about being sub 6,000, you can do some really, really interesting things building out lineups this week. So, I would recommend not to get married to anybody. Build, take some shots here and there. You really don't have to fade anybody. You can have enough unique lineups that just spread the love around. So,
well, one guy I'm completely fading is Tony Finau, 25%. I can't build any good lineups with him at 12,000. And I don't think he's going to score enough DraftKings points to make up for the chalk and the ability to be optimal. I just don't think that it's worth it to play him at 12,000 at all. And it's not just because I don't want to bet him outright to win at short odds. I don't think he's a good value in DFS. I think you can skip him completely. I'm going to play 0% Tony Finau because if he wins again, then you tip your cap and say, all right, Tony Finau just owns Mexico and owns Detroit. And you just give him that. But all these other guys that we talked about, like Højgaard, 18% projected. Olesen, 14. Dietrich, 14. Jaeger's a little chalky. Pendrith is a little chalky, but they're both less chalky than Tony Finau. This is going to be a lot easier to play the leverage picks and get a more optimal lineup than if you start with a 12K Tony Finau that's chalk. I think you're just asking for to go down with the entire chalky ship.
Definitely have zero interest in Tony Finau.
I knew you would agree with me. You're such a voice of reason, Connor.
No, I mean, here's the thing about Tony Finau, not to beat the dead horse, but at 12K, you are literally saying Tony Finau has to win. And not only does Tony Finau have to win, he has to score the most DK points too, which I think that those two things, it could be Rory McIlroy and I'd have the same outlook. To put that kind of investment in DraftKings into one player, it's ill-advised. Even if you fit Tony Finau into your roster, you're not going to have enough balance the rest of your roster to take down a tournament. So
let me reiterate, Tony Finau was 71st in this field, not just in general. This weak ass field, Tony Finau, the outright favorite, the chalkiest 12K pick of all time, 71st out of 150 guys in my stat model. If that's not a full fade, I don't know what is. If you're playing that, you're losing everywhere. You are losing literally everywhere, just like Connor said, unless he wins and has the most DK points. Then you're winning with everybody else. You're chopping that pot. And you should just quit DFS because that's the opposite of how you want to play DFS. So playing Tony Finau this week in DFS, I think I'll go as far as to say that's dumb. Don't be dumb.
Don't be dumb. Because if you want to be dumb at the top, I'll tell you how you can do it. Because yours truly.
Let's do it.
Because yours truly is
Steven Jaeger. Steven Jaeger chalk.
Oh, I got worse. I'm going to play Emiliano Grillo is who
I had a feeling because that's another guy that I'm only going to have 10% of because I don't think he's worth the chalk that he has. Yeah, he's carrying some heavy chalkage.
I think the thing that I like about Emiliano Grillo.
Last check, 8%. So Emiliano might be leveraged now.
Yeah, he is leverage according to the two places I looked. And what I like about Emiliano Grillo is he can be one of, seriously, I would put him in the top 10 for elite approach ball striking players when he gets it going. He is absolutely nails. Mm-hmm. And he's had an ability to find a putter off and on over the last 6-8 months too, which, typically has been a little bit of a hiccup for him. His off the tee game has stayed consistent. He's just under a stroke gained off the tee. So I like looking at Emiliano, and he's coming off of the Waste Management where he gained 6 strokes on approach. He had a little rough time at the Genesis, but still gained on putting almost 2.5 strokes. And his off the tee game at the Genesis, which was, I think, much harder look than the Waste Management, he still managed to be positive for that stat too. So, yeah, I don't mind firing up Emiliano at 8% rostership. I think that's a pretty good leverage play.
And he's the guy you don't really feel great about betting on because he's so hot and cold. But for DFS at a place like this, he's got immense upside. And if he's leverage, and he came in 20th, I'm like, well, that's not bad at all. That's much better than the Tony Finau territory. This guy makes birdies in bunches. He avoids bogeys really well. He's an experienced player on the PGA Tour. I think I'm with you, especially if he's only 8% owned. That's absurdly low for a guy of his caliber in an event like this. It just doesn't make any sense. If you go down here, Dietrich is got tons of firepower, 14%. Jaeger is the chalky one here at 9,800. Pendrith 21% at 9,600. I love starting my lineups with Højgaard and Pendrith and just throwing my chalk there. Not really heavy chalk, but just my popular guys right at the top. And then going in with Rio is only 10% owned. Jake Knapp only 9% owned. This is all these guys down below the top are extremely leveraged for how, especially compared to how I'm playing them as my top picks. I love these guys. I'm at 20-30% exposure to these guys. So I'll eat all that chalk because I know it's still not as chalky as Finau and Jaeger. And I'm not full fading Jaeger. He's a great play here, but I'm under the field on Jaeger so that I can get to these other guys that are coming at 10 to 15%.
Yeah, I don't hate, really, honestly, I don't hate starting to Taylor Pendrith in EVR. Like to be honest, I like going the 2 stack right there and then going right to Rio at 92. With the pricing the way it is this week, there is some value down there in those in those 6s. Like you can get away with stacking 3 like prime guys up in the 9s. Right. Or if you don't want to be as risky and have to go dumpster diving at all, you can start in the 8s and go like Doug Gim, Jake Knapp.
Seriously,
Aaron Rye is somebody I have some interest in here. So,
and maybe he doesn't line up with this golf course that well, but who's hotter right now than Mackenzie Hughes, another Canadian? He's only at 2.7% ownership projection. That's an ultimate leverage pick for a guy who's blazing hot. EVR, I'm even talking myself into EVR because his ownership is only coming in at 11%. I don't know what's coming over me, but me wanting to play EVR and DFS it's a shocking development.
It'll be fun if something good comes of that. I know we had a question. We had a question in the chat about who the guys to bet on that are hot right now. I think it's a couple of guys we hit on just to not leave the question unanswered. Hisasuni, I think, is hotter than hell, and Jake Knapp would probably be 2 pretty good odds guys that are in better form than everybody else. I still like the EVR call, and I'm like segueing back to him in DFS. I think at 7.8% projected rostership with him, he's projected to put up somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 to 80 points, and that's if he doesn't compete in the top 5. So I really like that play at 9,500 at low rostership, and it allows us to, like I said, stack heavy with like a Taylor Pendrith, Rio. You could do the three of them up top, and I really like that move. So I just wanted to pound that out.
Is so funny. Rio Hisatsune at 10.7% projected ownership at 9,200. That's an extremely nice place to start if you want to. If you get in the 8s, the 8s are loaded with guys I like. Charlie Hoffman, red hot, another guy that you might want to put in your player pool. To answer the question, who's hotter than Charlie Hoffman? It's unbelievable, but this is the only time of the year where Charlie Hoffman's actually live to be betted on or played in DFS. This is his time to shine because once they go to Florida, bye-bye Charlie Hoffman. We won't hear about him again until next February.
Are you worried that we're getting kind of some bias and some mispricing just based on the fact that he basically owns the WM? And so, like, yeah, he's in good form, but
I was shocked when he showed up at Riviera looking good. What's going on with that?
I guess
maybe the guy's just in good form. if it was up to me, I'm playing Justin Suh over him at 6% at 8,300. That's an incredible value. And Michael Kim, a little chalky at 15%, but 8,200 is too cheap for him. This is just so much leverage in this tier in the 8s that
I am telling you, do not eat that Michael Kim chalk. I forbid you.
I'm at 15%. I'm matching the field. I'm not going crazy.
That is so steep for Michael Kim, dude. Even in this field, ugh. That's like right below him. Mav McNeely projecting at 13 or 14%. Why? Like I would like for what?
Yeah, well, Mav McNeely's terrible, so I'll rather play Kim.
Getting down into the 7s.
Yeah.
So
SH Kim chalk.
Yeah, SH Kim is one of my fades I looked at. Like Kim is, I think he's super volatile. He could definitely come out here and compete, but when I looked at the value proposition, with the weighted stats, like he just rates out super low in that regard. Like it's a risk versus.
How is he more chalky than Alejandro Tosti, who everybody seems to love this week? I don't understand how he's getting more run than Tosti.
Yeah, I like Toasty this week, but I don't like being 10% Toasty, which is where he's coming up on.
He's
like him
right
and
now.
SH Kim are in that like 10 to 12 range. That's just too much for either of them. I mean, you got Nate Lashley right there, who I would gladly play at literally half the roster.
Lashley and Chesson Hadley both rated out highly for me, and Hadley is only coming at 5%. I'm doing a full fade on everybody's darling for no reason at all, other than he's a bomber, Jonathan Vegas.
Yeah, I don't get that one, man.
15% for a guy who is dead last in this field putting and short game overall. I can't do that.
No, I can't either. And he pops. There's courses where people always want to try and jam him in. I think this is one of them. I think he was popular last year. I don't get it. It's not going to get my money, that's for sure. Especially when I got guys in there that frankly I think have the higher upside, like Vincent Norman, somebody we've had some success with.
For sure.
He's 2% projected. KH Lee is another person.
Panda, the Panda is live.
I think he's live, dude. I think he's a good value at that price in this field, and 5.5% projected. So
I'm fading so much chalk.
It's so easy to fade the chalk, though. It's like they.
I like Carson Young, but I don't like him at 16%.
They put these freaking guys that are going to be solid chalk in each of the pricing tiers, and all you got to do is pivot up or down, and you're getting in a lot of cases, better golfer. So just avoid the landmines.
All right, another guy I put a star next to is Chris Gotterup at 7,100. Bomber.
Yeah, Gotterup rated out pretty well for me. I think that the only things that kind of stood out to me that we're going to need kind of a one-off performance. His 200 plus approach is not great.
No,
he's actually, it's pretty abysmal. but his driving distance is
no good.
His driving distance, he's fourth in this field for driving distance. He averages about 313. And the driving accuracy, though it's 80th in this field, is still not horrible. It's tracking at about 50% on the accuracy metric. So he's a bomber. He is a bomber with some accuracy. Not all bombers that hit it that far are going to be anywhere near the fairway consistently. So
get this. There's two stats where Chris Gotterup is number one in this field. It's driving distance gained, which is slightly different than just your raw driving distance. Number one in driving distance gained, which means that he's hitting it far and straight at the same time on driving holes. And par threes, all but one of the par threes are in that 175 to 200 yard bucket. Number one in this field, Chris Gotterup, from 175 to 200 on a par three.
Not only on par threes, but just on raw approach from that distance, he's also number one. At least for the last 24 rounds, he is in the model I ran. Right.
And that seems nice because there are 11 holes with that same approach distance. So I'm falling in love with Gotterup, even though he's more of a value pick. And he's a pivot off another super duper chalky guy that I usually like, but I'm definitely not on at 17%. Samuel Stevens. I really like Sam Stevens, but he's an easy chalk fade this week, especially when you put Goddard up at the same price.
Yeah, his chalk is brutal. I'm not touching Sam Stevens.
No chance. No chance. I'd rather play our guy, the 5 best rappers, Dylan Wu, who's the best putter in this field. He's only getting 3% love. Bramlett's kind of borderline for me. I'm gonna taper off some of my exposure to Bramlett because he's getting closer to 10% at 6,800. I mean, he fits the course, but I'd rather play Garrick Higo at 67, who's only projecting 6%, and Sammy Valimaki 6,700. We're getting down to these great value plays.
Yeah, Bramlett for sure. Like, no, I will go down to Sammy Valimaki, who objectively I like a hell of a lot better than Garrick Higo. I'm not on the Higo bandwagon this week. I know there's reason to play him, and I know he's getting some steam from some pretty sharp people. But I think Valimaki's got the higher upside. I think Valimaki can win, whereas I don't know that I think that with Higo.
That's fair. Well, let's see. There's one guy that popped, but he's further down. I'll leave him for the end of the show. It's pretty funny because I think I remember him doing well here last year. But that's a teaser. Well, who do you have? Who do you have down? Oh, you have Eric Barnes, Ben Coles.
Eric Barnes. No, really. The way I'm building, I haven't had to get down here a ton. There's a couple that stick out to me. Carl Yuan rated out well for me, which he rates out well for everybody. He is a little more volatile play, but 6,200, it's a good deal. And then
8%, that's not terrible. It's a little chalky for down here, but it's worth it for Carl.
Adrian Dumont de Chasson.
Wow, that was Adrien Dumont de Chasson.
I was close. 6,300 is another World Tour guy that actually is mispriced. Matty Schmid, it kind of falls in that bucket, but he's even more volatile. So
he's a bomber. That's it.
I'd go DDC probably before I'd go Schmid, and then that's about all I got until I get all the way down to 5,800. So if you got some in there,
my guy is at 5,800 that popped up. Number 5.
MJ Defoe? Is it MJ?
No, Defoe? I don't pity MJ Defoe this week. We're talking about the old Irishman, Padraig Harrington, who did great last year in this tournament and popped up 5th in my model this year. So 5,800, he's getting no ownership at all. Oh, he slipped to 11th in my model at the last run. But 5,800, if you're down here, excellent par 3 player, excellent on approach, excellent short game. Not a long hitter anymore. But overall, we're talking about a guy who, if he can find some birdies out here, he's going to do just fine. And he's going to be a great value that nobody else is going to have.
Yeah, can't argue that.
And who doesn't love Patty Harrington? He's one of our favorites. A couple Irish boys grew up watching Patty Harrington.
No, I like that call, especially at that price. So no complaints from me. You've got my boy Trace Crow down here. Again, if you find yourself down here, I think there are worse things to do.
There's a lot of diddling down here that we could do instead.
The only other guy is another bomber with a decent short game. Popped a little bit, but very small sample size, and it's Kevin Doherty. Kind of a similar player profile to Trace. So, a couple of just real dart throws down here. I'm talking 1 or 2 lineups if you're really stacking top heavy. So,
all right, who's winning this damn thing? Who's winning this damn thing?
I think I'm gonna go Hasasuni. I think he gets it done this time.
Rio.
I think I'm going Rio.
I'm going with the same tier. I'm going with our guy Jake Knapp at 22 under.
And then we got the EVR versus
EVR. No, it was Gim versus Kim.
Gim versus Kim. That's what it is. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Which will be very interesting because they're right in that same area as well. It's going to be interesting. First round leader. I mean, Are you going Rio first round leader? Because he's definitely got the firepower to do it.
I don't know that I think he's going to go first round leader as much. I would probably lean. I could see Jake Knapp because we can get a good number on that first round leader bet. I would say I could see Jake Knapp coming out and having the hot hand and then kind of cooling off. So I don't know. I'm into actually gambling this week. This is a field where I think there's a lot of merit in throwing
Lots
some
of
darts.
edges. Lots of edges.
Yeah, so
I'll
go
find
Knapp
first
first
round
round.
leader, round finishing position. First round leader, Nikolai Højgaard, 30-1. I think I'll go there.
I don't hate it. I can't hate Nikolai Højgaard.
Not at 30-1. That's nice. Finau's 22-1. Yeah, you can skip that. He ain't gonna be the first round leader.
Hey, what's
your guy?
What's just fun prop bet since you have the book open? What's Finau to miss the cut?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. Tournament lines. Oh man, I gotta find it. Make miscut. Okay, to make the cut, to miss the cut. Oh boy, it's gonna be all the way at the bottom. Plus 400.
I think I'd be betting that, man. I think Finau implodes this week. I don't know why. I just think it's going to be worse than usual.
Know. I don't think he's that bad, but
I think he's that bad.
To miss the cut, he's obviously the longest to miss the cut in this field at plus 400. I can see it, but I don't know that he's going to be that bad. He likes it here too much. And he's still a top 20 golfer in the world. You can't really say he's terrible, especially in a field like this where you're like, oh, Tony Finau should win. Yeah, he should, but he won't.
I just wishful thinking. That's all.
Your guy, Jake Knapp, first round leader is a 50-1 bet, by the way.
Yeah, I love that. Jake Knapp in Rio. I'm really split, but I'm going to stick with Rio to win it. I like Jake Knapp to take first round leader.
Let's go. Let's win some big money. As I have a feeling we're going to be rolling our R's and saying, Arriba.
I'll leave the roll in the R's to you.
Arriba. All right, let's head out. Next week, we're headed to Florida for what used to be the Honda Classic at Palm Beach Gardens. Then what course is that? Just Palm Beach Gardens.
I was drawing a blank on what the hell that tournament's called now.
It's the Cognizant Classic.
That's right, the Cognizant Classic. That's
I like Honda better. Honda didn't want to pay up.
It's at PGA National.
Yeah, that's right. Nicholas course.
Yep.
All right. We'll see you in Florida next week. Hopefully we're speaking Spanish and drunk off tequila still from winning. All right. Let's hit the drop. Night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe. It really means the world.